Hey everyone, welcome to episode 138 of the Self-Publishing Roundtable. I am your host, Wade Finnegan, and I'm joined by my co-host as usual, Erica Conroy.
Hi.
And Xavier Granville.
Hello, internets.
Our special guest this evening is Libby Hellmann. Libby obviously is an author, but we brought her on tonight for an interesting thing. She took a little while, you might say, between book 4 and 5 of her Ellie Foreman Mystery series, and we thought it would be really interesting to talk to her about how you revive a series like that and what sort of things happened to have her wait that long. It was approximately 10 years, I guess.
Yeah.
And so we brought her on to talk about that. Then, of course, too, she's a hybrid author, so we want to maybe pick her brain a little bit about those sort of things and all that stuff. So, Libby, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Thanks for having me. As I said, it's 9:30 in Chicago. I don't know. We'll see how long I last.
We'll try to keep you awake, I guess.
Yeah.
Make sure Xavier gives lots of jokes.
And 25 years ago, I wouldn't go out until 9:30. I mean, it was shameful to get to a bar much before 10.
Yeah.
So,
I only wake up at the witching hour.
I'm starting to turn into a night person. I've never been a night person, but I find things to do, and all of a sudden it's midnight or 12:30, and I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on? Anyway,
so why don't you give the listeners just a brief background, brief bio of your writing journey, how you
writing journey. Okay, well, I started writing about 20 years ago, actually, fiction. I had written nonfiction pretty much my whole professional life, and I switched over to fiction slowly. I was still working my day job. It took me 4 books to get published. The 4th book I wrote was the first one that got published, and that was the first Ellie Foreman book. Was it called? Oh, An Eye for Murder. And then I did another one for every year. Actually, it was every 9 months because I was with Berkeley Prime Crime at that point. It was kind of a weird arrangement. So with Berkeley Prime Crime, and they were doing a mass market version of my books, and then Poison Pen Press decided they liked the books, and they did a hardcover version of the books, which came out a month before the mass markets did. And then I got dropped by Berkeley after 4 books, not surprising. But I then wondered what in heaven's name was going to happen to my career, and Poison Pen came in like a white horse on a white stallion and said, "We'll rescue you. We like you. We want to put your books in trade paperback." And I said, "Yeah, go for it." And at the same time that they were doing that, there was something that was just starting to be called ebook rights, and nobody knew what to do with them, particularly the publishers. And so they said, "Well, we don't really know what to do with these things. You want them?" I said, "Oh, I didn't know what to do with them either." I said, "Sure, I'll take them." Surprise! Guess what happened? So, as it turned out, I ended up keeping the ebook rights to pretty much all of my books. And then I went with Bleak House and started a second series, leaving Ellie kind of in the ditch. And then I did some standalones, and then I did another Georgia book. And then about a year ago, maybe a little more than a year ago, 2 years ago, I started thinking about writing an espionage novel because I love espionage, and I've always been a little afraid to do it because I didn't think I knew enough. So I did a lot of research on World War II espionage, and I wrote a novella about a German refugee who was forced to spy on the early years of the Manhattan Project in Chicago, which of course is where I live. And it did pretty well. And at the time I was writing that, there was a lot of, that's when Edward Snowden was making all of his allegations and disclosures about the degree to which the government can snoop on us, and I decided that I wanted to write about that, and I wanted to write about modern-day espionage, or what I now call the post-Snowden era of espionage. And as soon as I decided I was going to write a story based on that, I knew that I had to bring Ellie back, because she was the only character that could anchor that kind of a story. She's a video producer. The books are not cozies, but they are suspenseful. And if I had her producing a video for a thinly disguised Boeing, the consumer side, not the military side, but she got mixed up in the drones and the other thing, the bombers and the other things that Boeing manufactured, I thought it might be kind of interesting. So I brought her back. That's what happened.
So you got into the ebook side kind of by happenstance, then? It wasn't...
Sheer luck. Dumb luck. Had no idea what to do with them until Joe Conrath, who, as you know, lives in, you probably do know he lives in Chicago, and he's a good friend, and, you know, he would start coming to conferences and say, you got to start doing something with you, you know, you got to put them up there, you're going to make a lot of money. And I'm like, oh, come on, Joe. Oh, come on. No, I'm fine. And he said, no, I'm telling you, you got to do it. And this was about a year. He kept pestering me. And finally, I had the ebook rights to some of my books, and I put them up there, and holy moly, I started making some money. So that's what started it. And now my major source of income are my ebooks.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah. Who knew? You know, I was lucky in that I did have the rights to them, and I have since self-published 3 novels and put together a collection of short stories and done a bunch of other things, some co-authored anthologies and box sets as well. So
how long ago was it that you put that first ebook up? How many years ago was that?
I think it was 2010.
So yeah, you got a pretty good jump on it then.
I got in. The first wave was cresting, but the second wave was coming along, and I hit the second wave. And you know, those were the days when it was real, you know, way before Kindle exclusives, and you could hit a pretty good size number of books and get pretty high rankings, and sales drove rankings, and rankings drove sales, and it was sort of the golden age where everybody was going crazy with ebooks, and then things started to change.
Well, actually, I'll let the other panels go first, because I want to dive into that change too, but we've got some other things we should probably get to first before we get there too much. X or Erica, want to go next?
You said my name first.
Okay, I said
your
your name.
Go first?
I don't know. My name was mentioned first, so I figured I'd look. Yeah, so I guess diving back into where you kind of came from. Did you feel at the time when you were writing the Ellie Foreman series and the way that it had ended when you were writing traditionally, did you feel that the series had come to a natural end?
No, I was just really pretty. There were 2 problems writing that series. One was that it was in first person, which I still feel is the most intimate voice between a reader and a writer, and I love first person. But as I was growing in the development of my craft, I wanted to explore other people's points of view as well as Ellie's, and I couldn't. It's hard to do it gracefully when you're mixing first and third person. You have to be really careful. It's a balance, and so that was one problem. The second problem was she was an amateur sleuth, and video producers just don't come up against dead bodies as a matter of course. And I was turning backflips by the 4th novel to try to find a credible, authentic reason for her to get involved in a murder mystery investigation. It just, it was just driving me crazy. And at the same time, I had a character who I had introduced in the Ellie series who was a female police officer, and I said, it'd be really easy to suspend her from the police force, have her hang out a shingle as a PI, and I've got a second series. And so that's what I did. I created Georgia Davis and wrote 4 books with her as a PI. And it was tremendously liberating. It was terrific because I didn't have to have a reason for her to get involved. It was her job, so it all worked out. And I love Georgia, and she's totally different than Ellie, even though they know each other, and they always have cameos in each other's books. She's really different. She's got baggage. She's a loner. She's not very social. She may or may not have a drinking problem. She broke in the first book. She has broken up with her boyfriend, and it's really hit her hard. The way I describe it is that Ellie would go out to lunch with you and give you too much information about her life. Georgia would not go out to lunch with you at all. She doesn't want to.
Nice contrast.
Yeah, it worked.
Also, the fact that you said you have them cameoing in each other's series, that's a good way to get readers to go and read the other.
I hope so.
Other book series as well.
Actually, in one of them, they are co-protagonists in Doubleback, which is one of the reasons we called it Doubleback. Both Ellie and Georgia. Well, Georgia has the heavy lifting, but Ellie is definitely there and has quite a bit to do as well. So that all worked out pretty well.
Very cool. So, I don't know, who wants to go next? Erica, you want to go next or you want me to go next?
No, I'm fine with this. I'm just getting back to the Ellie Foreman stuff. So what were some of the challenges that you had to overcome to suddenly bring her back after such a 10-year gap?
Well, the way I was thinking about this today, and there are 2 different areas that I had to pay attention to. And one was the characters, and let me turn off my email. Sorry about that. One was the characters and the plot and how that would have changed over 10 years, and the other was actually in the craft of how I actually write now, the difference that 10 years makes. And there was more of a difference than I thought there might be. So in terms of the character, I guess the biggest decision was whether I was going to age her or not. And I decided that I kind of finessed it. She's a little older, but she certainly hasn't aged 10 years because otherwise no one would be interested in her. But her daughter, who was 15 in the last book, or 16, is now 26. So she has aged. And her senior citizen father, who was like in his 80s, is now in his early 90s. So I aged everyone except Ellie. I don't know. I just felt, maybe it's my rebellion against old age myself. But so she's kind of still the same age. And, of course, there's going to be one day when she and her daughter are the same age, and that's going to be kind of interesting. I'm not sure how I'm going to deal with that yet.
Vampires.
Yeah, actually, I'm thinking about maybe having her daughter become a fraud investigator and maybe take over some of the stuff in the book, because fraud investigators do really cool things. I have a friend who's a fraud investigator. She works for a bank, and she has all the databases that police have to look up people and find out what they're doing and whether they're doing what they say they're doing, or whether. And I think that could be kind of fun, but we'll see. Throw murder in there, so we'll have Ellie's daughter be the new protagonist, and Ellie will be the crotchety old mother who tells her, no, you have to do this, you have to do that. Anyway, we'll see.
The next generation of crime fighters.
Yeah, exactly. Because she's a millennial now, So who knows?
And eventually, us millennials will find jobs, folks.
Well, see, that's right. See, Rachel, that's her name, is going to find a job. But I will tell you one other thing that did change in terms of plot and the characters. You know, there's an old saying in mystery writing that you can't harm a child or a pet. That's sort of a no-no. You can't do that. And I didn't. But Rachel's not a kid anymore. She's 25 or 26. So you'll have to read the book and see what I did with her or to her. Because she's definitely plays a major role in this book.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know a couple horror authors that would definitely disagree on that stuff. David W., right? In particular.
Well, I know. Horror people, they have no scruples at all. What can I say? None.
Well, even Crash, the supernatural... well, no, that was more just like a psychological thriller. Even that, he throws a kid under the bus immediately just because it gets you. Like you said, it almost is one of those things that it might be almost too sensitive, like you said.
Right. Oh, and there's one other thing in the plot, and that is the difference that technology has made in the detective work itself. And, you know, I mean, it started to change when email came and when we had cell phones. And I remember people saying, oh my God, with cell phones now what's going to happen? They can always, you know, well, cell phones have opened up a ton of new possibilities. You know, they can run out of juice, that, you know, there's no service, they can be hacked. You know, there's all sorts of neat things that can happen with cell phones, and that's just the beginning. I mean, look at what we can do with computers, although I would have no idea how to hack into a computer. None, of course. But
of course.
I do hear...
Let's make that clear. Libby has no idea how to hack into a computer.
Or how to disguise myself online. No, I don't use Tor or anything like that, so...
Well, you're ahead of some people by at least knowing about Tor, so...
yeah, okay. Anyway, so, you know, those were kind of cool things to be aware of and to change. And the stuff that used to take a detective, like, you know, half a day, go down to Cook County Records and find out who owned a piece of property, now takes, you know, 5 minutes. And the same thing with getting a DMV, a license plate number. I mean, you can do it really easily. You can find out if they paid property taxes. So within a couple minutes. So in some ways, a detective's job has become a lot easier. And with all of the databases that detectives can pay for. I mean, it's not free, of course. Kroll and there's a bunch of other ones, initial ones. It's just really fascinating, all the stuff that someone can do now.
Yeah, and I tend to read pulp novels, especially detective ones. So when you read about the perspective of the private eye in the 30s, and then you read back to like Sherlock Holmes and stuff like that, like it's such the evolution of the private investigator has seen so many leaps and bounds as technology has changed over the years, and fiction has really played around with that. Because even like nowadays, you got the modern remake of Sherlock, so now even Sherlock Holmes has a Bluetooth.
Yeah, exactly. And it's particularly evident in thrillers, I think. I mean, there's all sorts of plots that are built around technology snafus that are not supposed to happen, or technology things that happen when no one's expecting them to, you know, that kind of thing. So, very cool.
So on the writing side of what's changed over the past 10 years, has your style changed, or you mentioned that you'd started out with Ellie with first person and you wanted to...
Right. Well, now I did do Ellie in first person, but I did have a couple chapters that were in third person from another character's point of view. But again, I wasn't really pleased with it because I don't think it was as graceful as it could have been. But in terms of actually writing, I have made some rather substantial changes. Number one, my chapters have become much shorter. I used to have at least 2, sometimes 3 scenes in a chapter. Now I only have 1. The scene is a chapter. I mean, they are James Patterson short chapters. And I said I would never do that because I'm not a big admirer of his writing, but there I am. I'm writing shorter chapters. I'm writing shorter descriptive narrative now. The narrative is 3 sentences where it might have been 5 before, a descriptive passage. But what that forces me to do is to make that 3rd sentence somehow elevate that so that it means something more than just blue eyes and blonde hair and legs that could, a man could die for. I mean, you would make that 3rd element something a little bit more substantive or beautiful or whatever. Let's see. So those 2 things are shorter. The actual detecting, as we've talked about, has changed as well. The book, the length of the book. I mean, my books tended to be between 90 and 100,000 words. Jump Cut was barely 70,000 words. And most of that was because I didn't really have a subplot. I usually have a subplot that's going on with one of the other characters, but the plot itself became so complicated that there really wasn't room for a subplot. So, I mean, I just kind of told the story, and when the story was over, the book was over. It's the shortest book I've ever written, shortest novel I've ever written. So, go figure.
Still a novel.
Yeah, still a novel. Yeah. Yeah, and I was pretty pleased with it. And Publishers Weekly gave it a starred review. Yes.
Nice.
That was good. Yeah, that was good. And that's the first traditionally published book I've done in about 4 years. So there you go. No, wait a minute. 5 years. 5 years. Yeah, 5 years.
And what publisher are you with now?
I don't know. I'm Poison. I don't have a contract with a publisher. I didn't really have a contract with Poison Pen, but I told them I was writing another Ellie book, and basically I said, "Would you be interested in the print rights?" Because in self-publishing, the hardest thing that I have found, and it continues to be really difficult, is selling print copies. I mean, I can do ebooks and I can do audios, and those work out just fine. But print is really tough. And getting into a bookstore, even though I've been traditionally published, is not easy. And getting into libraries with a print edition is not easy. So my druthers, I mean, I would love to let somebody else do the print version and let me do the ebook and audio. And for some reason, Poison Pen said, sure. So I said, okay, you can have it. Go for it. And they said, okay. So that's really the first time I've been with a print publisher for a few years now. I don't know what's going to happen with the next book. Well, I do know. I'm writing another novella about World War II, and I'm about halfway done. And once I finish it, I'm going to package it with the one about the spy, and that'll be my own, 2 novellas together will be about the size of a small novel. And then I'm going to write a caper book with 2 women. I introduced them in a short story called Capital Partners, and one is it's going to be a funny Thelma and Louise. Yeah, they're going to be chased all over the world by someone that...
Not off the cliff.
Yeah. No, they're not going to go off.
It was pretty happy and funny up until then.
Yeah. That was kind of a downer.
like the running away at the very beginning and the initial threat aside, it was a pretty fun movie.
And Brad Pitt made an appearance. Hey, that was good,
Oh yeah, you gotta throw that guy in, just a little spice of Pitt.
Just throw it in. Yeah, throw him in. Yeah, that was good. But no, it's I'm thinking about it. I was just at a bookstore, and they gave me 2 Donald Westlake novels, caper novels, to read, so I can kind of deconstruct the formula of how they do that. And that's one of the things that I love about this genre, is that I kid around and I say I'm writing my way around the genre, but I kind of am. I really enjoy the challenge of trying a different kind of book each time I write. I mean, I've gone from amateur sleuth to PI to historical thrillers to I wrote a police procedural. So yeah, I like it. I like doing all that.
And all those books are going to be self-published, the novellas and.
The novellas are going to be self-published. The caper book, I don't know. I'll ask Poison Pen if they want to do it. I don't know if they will. They might just want to do Ellie books, but I'll ask them. And if they don't want to do it, it's wonderful to have the option of doing it myself, What a great deal. It's really changed everything, being able to self-publish. It's changed everything.
Well, I guess touching on that, and I think what you're getting at, at least with this last book, that you're approaching, at least in terms of your the print side of your marketing, you're looking at it like book by book almost. What other benefits are you finding by being able to do those hybrid author type of things? Like, what other things have you taken advantage now that you've kind of dipped your toe into self-publishing?
Well, I would find it really hard to go back to a traditional publisher on a contractual basis. I don't think traditional publishers offer me anything that I can't already do for myself, with the exception of print distribution. Now, I can do the print distribution, and I have, through CreateSpace and Ingram, but it's still a battle to get distributed. So would I do a contract just for print distribution? No way. But if they wanted to do print and let me keep the ebook rights, why not? It's the best of both worlds. I don't have to worry about getting into libraries or bookstores, but I still get the revenue from the ebooks, which is great. Although it is harder now. I mean, there is such it's not a, I want to say glut, and I guess glut is the right word, of books out there. I mean, there are so many books that, as we all know, and I think all of us are facing the same situation of the pain of discoverability, or how the hell do you get discovered? So.
Is that to your reference of the golden age? Is that where you think it's?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, those were the days when people were buying Kindles like crazy and experimenting, and they wanted to fill up their Kindles, and Amazon was giving 70% revenue, so all the other ebook publishers fell in line, and
you describe it like it's Woodstock.
It was kind of a real high.
Man, like, people were singing in the streets.
Yeah, all you had to do was, basically say, hey, I'm here, I got a book out, you're going to like this book, and people would take a chance. Not like that anymore. It's a lot tougher.
And so how have you gone about, I guess, taking advantage of that, or otherwise marketing to this changing audience?
I don't know. It's really hard. One of the lives I lived before was in public relations, so I kind of knew the fundamental concepts behind PR and promotion, but it's so different with books because you're basically marketing it one book at a time to one person at a time. I spent a lot of money and a lot of time on the promotion of Jump Cut from the time it was on pre-order until it came out on March 1st. And I don't even know if I don't know that it made a whole lot of difference in the long run. I think I could have dispensed with a lot of the pain and the angst and everything. I mean, I was exhausted when the book came out. I mean, I felt like I'd already done 6 months of work on it, which I had, and it had nothing to do with writing the damn thing. It was all marketing and production. So yeah, I mean, I tried to build up pre-orders, and I did pretty well. It's the first time I'd really tried to concentrate on pre-orders, and I did Facebook ads, and I ordered, I lowered the price to 99 cents on a pre-order, and then on launch week, for the first 4 days, I kept the price at 99 cents and did a lot of advertising on different websites, and I think that helped. Would I do it again? I don't think so. I also wrote a ton of blog posts in advance, because I knew from before that I would, people would say, would you want to guest blog? And I didn't want to have to do it at the last minute. So I wrote about 6 or 7 blog posts. Happily, the issues raised in Jump Cut were really fun to write about. I mean, how to encrypt your cell phone, how to be anonymous online. Then there were there was, and maybe, I don't know, Erica, maybe you know about the Uyghurs in China, because you're closer to them than we are. The Uyghurs are a popular, the second most populous ethnic minority in China, and they're Muslims. And they're half Caucasian and half Chinese, and they're really more closer to the people in Turkmenistan and all the stands, Turkmenistan and Afghanistan, and anyway, and the Chinese have been discriminating against them for decades. I mean, pretty badly. Some of them, not a lot, a tiny minority, have become radical jihadists, and the Chinese are, and this is part of the story of my book, the Chinese are trying to drop drones on them so that, to show who's the boss. And so that's a part of the story of Jump Cut, which I did get into. So I wrote some op-eds about the Uyghurs and how they've been discriminated against. And there is a case when the U.S. and the Chinese actually worked together and did a drone strike in the region in which the Uyghurs lived. So that was pretty concerning. So that, yeah, topics like that is what I wrote about. So that's kind of why I was exhausted by the time the book came out.
And you think overall it didn't make a whole lot of difference?
Well, I think writing the blog post was a great idea, and I'd do that again. But the pre-orders probably were a good idea, too. I got about 800 pre-orders, which is, for me, it was fabulous, because I think I'd only gotten 2 before. But romance authors talk about, and I don't know if they're just talking or if it's really true, they talk about getting thousands of pre-orders, before their books come out. I wasn't anywhere close to that, so. But, it was a good chunk, and it started things off nicely. So
speaking of marketing, especially for Ellie Foreman, I saw that you did what you called a 50 Skype book club celebration to help market Book 5. Can you tell us about what that is and how that went?
It's still going. I mean, I just started it. I just kind of made up in my head there that I wanted to do book clubs via Skype or Google Hangout or whatever. If people would read Jump Cut, I would appear for half an hour, 45 minutes. And it's not going as well as I'd like it to. I've got about 10 book clubs. I think people want to wait and see how the book does before they read it. I mean, I think, book clubs are not going to just jump on a new book. They probably have their schedules already done for the next 6 months. But I do have like 10 book clubs that are going to do it, so I only need 40 more. If you happen to know of any, I'm available. I feel like a DJ, I'm available for bar mitzvahs and sweet 16s and book clubs.
Where did you get that idea? Was it something?
No, actually, there was. Yeah, no, it was another author, and I forget her first name, but she wrote about henna, the hair coloring, and it was fiction, but henna played a big part of it. And she, over the past 18 months, has done like over 100 book clubs, and it has made her book just go crazy. And I figured, since I'm writing genre, I wasn't even going to make anything close to 100, so I said, well, I'll do 50 and see what happens. So I really haven't started to push that yet. I did start it when the book came out, but I think it was too soon. I think I really do have to wait until later this spring and summer when people have had a chance to see if they like it or not. So. Go ahead. No, I'm done.
Okay. Do you have a fairly large email list?
Yeah.
Have you worked on that?
Yeah. Yeah, that helped. I did have about 5,000, and then I was in a author promotion thing, and it was amazing. We got 9,000 people. Each of us, there were like 20 authors, and they signed up for a rafflecopter, and there were like 9,000 people that we each got, the 20 authors. The problem was that a lot of the people didn't realize that when they signed up for the rafflecopter, they were allowing us to get their email address, and so a lot of them unsubscribed afterwards. So I have now about 12,000, which is still pretty good.
Yep.
So that's good.
Yeah.
And I try not to bother them too much, because I don't, I send out an email maybe once a month. I'm not one of those. Although when the book was coming out, I did send out a couple like within a week or two of each other. But I haven't sent anything out since the first week of March. So actually, I'm going to send out one next week for April.
So it sounds like you've dipped your toe in lots of different areas for marketing, especially for this last book, and maybe.
Yeah, you know what? It's kind of like you're throwing everything against the wall to see what sticks, and that's what marketing is. You never know, and what works for you might be an absolute failure for me, and you just never know. And then everybody is looking for the next silver bullet. And, oh, wait, maybe it's Facebook ads, or maybe it's boosted posts, or maybe it's, BookBub, or maybe it's this. Everybody we're like a stampede of animals. Let's go here, let's go there, let's do this, let's do that. And by the time I find out about it, it's over. Then people are looking for the next shiny object. So I don't know. It's crazy. That's the one thing that kind of mars this whole writing gig, is the time that you have to invest in marketing and promotion and keeping your name and your titles out there. It takes away from my writing. And the irony is that, for me, writing is the toughest thing I've ever done in my life. I mean, I'm terrified of writing. Every time I sit down at the screen, I'm convinced that people are going to see what a fraud I am, and it's the thing. I think we all have that. So, given the choice of whether to do a Facebook ad or write a page, I'll do the Facebook ad, because I know I can do that. And I can do that, and I can have fun with it. And so, my pace of writing has actually slowed down quite a bit. I'm not one of these 2 or 3 or 4 books a year per people. I'm lucky if I do 1 book a year, and I see no reason to change that. I really don't. I don't maybe I'm going to sound like a curmudgeon, but I just don't see how you can put out 5 books a year and have the quality that I would like to have in my writing. So.
It's funny. Didn't we just last week have someone on about pulp speed?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. We had 2 people on.
Yeah.
Pulp speed.
How
It really
many
does show. Pardon?
How many books a year do they publish?
Well, one of them had told us that in a 6-month period, she'd written and published 3 of her own novels and also written a novel for a client.
How do you do that? I don't know.
Well, she's recently taken up dictation as well, so the words are just flying out. But it totally shows how every author is different.
Yeah. I obsess over every sentence. I mean, I'll rewrite a sentence 4 times, and then I'll rewrite it another 4 times the next day. So, I am not a quick writer.
That,
Well, maybe-
I'm afraid
yeah,
would personally drive me insane.
I think dictation would be worth a shot for anyone, at least to give that a try, because at least it does get you out of that sense where you don't have your hands glued directly to the keyboard and you can't immediately hit the backspace button.
Well, you know what? I tried it once, and there's a difference between the way we talk and the way that we read. And therefore, there's a difference between prose on the paper and even an audiobook. I mean, sometimes an audiobook sounds much better when it's read. Other times, it doesn't sound as good to me as the prose if I had read it. So for me, I guess the medium is the decision maker. I mean, I will write prose differently than if I'm writing a video script. It'll be very different.
You write
Yeah,
a video
absolutely.
script?
Pardon me?
You write video scripts?
Yeah, that was a prior life. When I was working in public relations, I wrote video films and videos and slideshows for corporate clients, and before that, I worked in broadcast news. So I was producing news stories and mini documentaries. I worked at public television and NBC, and 6 weeks at ABC before I got fired.
That might be an interesting story.
Oh, it was okay. This is going to show you how old I am. It was when Good Morning America started. All right, so it's been on the air a long time, and one of the producers, whom I'd worked with at public television, wanted me to come aboard as what they call a talent coordinator, which is get the guests. And because I had worked in Washington, D.C., which is where I grew up, so I kind of knew my way around Capitol Hill and the White House and the federal agencies, and if they were going to be, they had this like, you remember 60 Minutes used to have Shana Alexander and Jim Kilpatrick, and one would take one point of view and one would take the other face off or something like that. Anyway. It was, and Saturday Night Live did Dan Aykroyd and Jane Curtin. You ignorant slut. Don't you remember?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I know the SNL for sure.
Okay. That was a takeoff on the 60 Minutes, and ABC decided to copy 60 Minutes, and I was in charge of getting the guests for that. One side had one position and the other person had an opposite position, and the first week, luckily, was pre-taped because on Friday, the 2 guests showed up and they agreed with each other. They did not have opposite points of view. And I had gotten both guests. So I was called down into the studio and made aware of my mistake. And we had to come up with another issue, which we did. And they kind of argued about it, and they taped it, and everything was fine. And that afternoon, I got fired.
Sounds like your first lesson in that tension is story.
Conflict is story. Yes, you got it. Really. Yeah.
Did you heed that advice later on when you when you switched to fiction?
Actually, I did. I mean, I write about, I write suspense a lot, and suspense is based on conflict and unresolved situations. So, yeah, except this one was resolved, unfortunately.
Yeah, not to your liking, but look at what I worked out too. So.
It worked out. Well, then when I got the job in PR, I stayed there for 8 years just to prove to myself that I could hold a job.
So what's
it takes all kinds of jobs to make a writer.
Yeah, tell me about it. No, but I was thinking about it, and despite the jobs that I've had, writing video scripts, working in TV, writing PR gigs, I mean, I have always been around words, and my whole career has been based around communication, whether it's visual through video and film, or written through prose and newspaper stuff. And so it's not surprising that I turned to fiction, I guess, because I've always had a fascination. And I love words. I mean, I love language, and I love it when it's beautiful and when it flows and when it's rhythmic and you know, whether it's being spoken or I'm reading it. It's very important to me. I love language, so.
So you're in the right profession, that's for sure.
Yeah, I guess I am.
So now, are you going to leave the Ellie's series open indefinitely? Do you have any plans for it coming to an end?
I think I might have one more Ellie book in me, and that might be the transition between Ellie to Rachel. But yeah, I think that the Ellie books could become the Rachel books. And that's the way I'm leaning right now. But I also want to go back to Georgia because she's got another few novels in her, you know, that I want to get out too. So we'll see. We'll see.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, did either of you have any questions, or do we have any questions from the site that we missed? Are we good?
Unless you've got something, Keith.
I was just gonna say, given now how much like the administration of your mailing list, your website, the marketing, all that's now falling more heavily on your shoulders. Do you start to miss the large armada of people working for you at a traditional publisher when it comes to those moments?
They didn't ever work for me in the first place.
Curses.
Good point.
I actually have people that help me out. I mean, I have someone that does my covers, and I have someone that does my print interiors, and I have someone that does my website and my graphics, and someone that helps me out with social media every once in a while. So I'm really, when they say treat it like a business, it really is. It really is a business at this point. And the part that I enjoy the most is the part that I do least, which is it's not that I enjoy writing, I'm scared of writing, but the satisfaction of having written. Who was it? I think it was Patricia Highsmith said that, or no? Who was the woman at the Algonquin? Oh God, I'm having a senior moment. Oh well, I can't remember. She said, I hate writing, but I love having written, and that's me.
Yeah, I agree with that statement a lot too. It's like running or like exercising. When you're doing it, you're like, but when you get done, you're like, oh, that felt pretty good.
Hey, I'm pretty cool. Yeah. So yeah, I feel the same way when I've written something nice. Yeah.
That's the payoff. All right. Well, if we don't have any from the site, I think we've covered everything I wanted to cover. So, Libby, thank you so much for coming on. We really, really appreciate it.
My pleasure. I hope your people and your listeners found it interesting. Maybe picked up a tip or two.
Definitely, yeah. It was interesting, and I love the perspective. The transition, and you talk about how things have changed, and I love the golden age one because, like X said, it's like it sounds like Woodstock, but it was that many years ago.
That really wasn't. It wasn't. And just to tell you, I did try to go to Woodstock. I was in Washington. We started driving, and we hit the New York Thruway. No, we made it up the New Jersey Turnpike. It was getting more and more crowded, and we got into New York, and we were on the Thruway. I forget which highway to get up to, and it was like a parking lot. And we turned around and went back to Philadelphia and spent the weekend there instead. Missed it. That close, yeah. Anyway.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I want to remind all our listeners too to, if you get a chance, please leave us a review. We really, really appreciate that. We Blab this Sunday. Do we have a guest? I don't think we. Maybe just us. I can't.
Yeah, no, it's Jim Johnson.
Jim Johnson. Okay. See, I'm not good at that stuff. I don't remember it. So this Sunday at 2:30 Pacific. I remember that. No, 2 Pacific. 2 Pacific. 2 Pacific. 5 Eastern.
This is getting too specific.
And I don't know. I have no idea what time in New Zealand, but that's okay.
Written on the website.
Well, that's where I was going to next. Go to.
Oh wait, Erica,
Yeah?
do you get A Place to Call Home in New Zealand? That series, the series A Place to Call Home. Have you watched it? It's in Australia. It's Australia. Oh my God, it is so good.
I don't watch much television. Our television is pretty crap.
It's so much better than
Shit off the
Downton
internet.
Abbey. It's so much better than Downton Abbey. You've got to watch it
I don't even
sometime.
watch that.
Okay, never mind. Never
The
mind.
idea of an Australian
I watch
Downton
anime
Abbey
and British and European shows.
Okay.
And writing. You're busy writing all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
The money I would give to see an Australian Downton Abbey.
It's really good. You can see it on. You can see the first season on Amazon. Anyway,
Oh, X, more TV for you to watch.
yeah. All
Yeah,
right.
I'm not going to watch it, but it sounds great.
Because you know you'd watch it. Keep watching.
I'd watch all of it.
Okay, it's set in the 50s. It's after World War II, but not really that far from World War II. And it's set in the 1950s in Australia, in the suburbs of Sydney. Really fascinating.
Yeah, I'll wait till I'm really good and sick, and I'll watch all of it.
Okay.
That's really good.
Okay.
I'll go to Netflix camp.
Yeah.
So, I was going to say, make sure you visit selfpublishingroundtable.com. Check out our latest blog posts. Check out my writing journey, all that good stuff, right? So,
And
then
the multi-author cross promo for
Oh,
science
yes.
fiction and fantasy. We're still
Yep.
doing that.
Till the
We're
23rd.
still taking submissions. We're getting lots. We're getting actually equal parts science fiction and fantasy books. So if you're one or the other or both, go for it.
that's awesome.
Great.
Yeah. And we actually have the right times, so I won't screw them up. I'll have to remember to check the site so I know what time I'm supposed to be where. But anyway, thank you again, Libby, and thanks to all the live listeners, and we'll see you all next week. Oh wait, Xavier, do you got something to say?
I do. Good night, internets.